Hi everyone, I'm Don Cravins Jr. coming to you from the National Urban League's Washington Bureau, and here are the 5 things that you need to know. Well, immigration is back in the news here in Washington, and I know you're thinking, wait a minute, I didn't hear about immigration reform or any bills passing through Congress. Well, that's correct. Immigration is a big topic this week because the Supreme Court of the United States is going to be hearing a case. The case is entitled United States versus Texas, and it involves executive orders issued by President Obama. You may recall President Obama issued several executive orders which dealt with 5 million undocumented immigrants. It allows those immigrants to remain in the United States. These are people who have American-born children. And so the president issued an executive order to allow these 5 million undocumented immigrants to remain, and now 26 states are challenging the president's executive orders. And so the Supreme Court, which you recall is 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats on the court, a very evenly split court, has got to determine this very politically charged issue during this very politically charged election year. And so it will be interesting to see what the Supreme Court does in this case on this very, very important issue. As you know, the National Urban League, our position on immigration reform is very, very solid. We support the president. We support efforts to reform immigration. And President Obama only issued these executive orders after Congress failed to send him a comprehensive immigration reform piece of legislation. And so we'll wait to see what the Supreme Court does on this. Speaking of presidential politics, all of you have been keeping up with the delegate count in both the Republican Party as well as the Democratic Party. There's still a lot of caucuses and primaries left to come. But I do want to direct your attention to a primary that occurred a couple of weeks ago, and that was the primary that happened in Arizona. You may remember the pictures and the news stories about the very, very long lines that voters, especially voters of color, had to endure in order to cast their votes in the primary election. Well, the Democratic Party, as well as Senator Sanders and Secretary Clinton, are teaming together to challenge that state's voter laws. And they're going to file suit and sue the state of Arizona over voter access to the polls. Now, why is that important? The primaries already happened, you're saying. Well, it's important because, remember, we have a general election that's going to come up in November. And the Democratic Party, Senator Sanders, as well as Secretary Clinton, want to ensure that voters of color don't have to fight those long lines once again. Remember, Arizona is a state, just like many of our southern states, that prior to 2013, they had to get any changes in their voting procedures approved by the federal government. But because in 2013 the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, now Arizona can shut down polling places or change voting requirements on its own. And that's what happened here. Since 2008, Arizona has closed 85% of its polling places, meaning that people have to stand in long lines and they've got to drive far distances in order to vote. So we will keep track on what the Democratic Party, Senator Sanders, and Secretary Clinton find out as relates to that suit. And we're going to continue to pay attention to all states that are starting to enact these types of closures or these types of changes in voting procedures. I want to give 2 shots out this week to our affiliate movement. One concerns our affiliate in the great city of St. Louis, the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis. And I want to say congratulations to Mike McMillan, but also to the chairman of the National Urban League's Board of Trustees, Mr. Michael Neidorff. Mr. Neidorff, in addition to being the chairman of our Board of Trustees, is also the president and CEO of the Centene Corporation. He and Mike McMillan, along with many of the politicians in St. Louis and Missouri, Governor Nixon and Senator Blunt and Senator McCaskill, announced the groundbreaking on a $25 million investment that the Centene Corporation is going to be making in Ferguson, Missouri. And that's going to create 250 jobs. So congratulations to Centene, and thank you, Centene Corporation, for the grand opening of its Ferguson Service Center, which is going to create 250 jobs in Ferguson, Missouri. And congratulations again to Mike McMillan, our local affiliate leader there. Also want to congratulate one of our local affiliate leaders in North Carolina, my good friend Patrick Graham with the Urban League of Central Carolinas. They're also doing some great work there. In North Carolina, they're going to open their new Highway Construction Academy, which will be a place to train people on highway construction as well as direct job placement in that area. And so congratulations to Patrick, the Charlotte Chamber of Commerce, as well as the North Carolina Department of Transportation for partnering together to create jobs for men and women who need those jobs in that area. And then last but not least, I was very fortunate to participate on the News One Now show with our good friend Roland Martin. He has a great show, daily show on TV One, but I was able to participate on one of his recent shows and speak about a very important issue, the Sixth Amendment. As you may know, all of us as American citizens are granted the right under the Constitution that if we are accused of a serious crime, that if we have the right to counsel. And if we cannot afford that right to counsel, we can't afford an attorney, the state has to give us an adequate lawyer, a lawyer who knows something about the crime we're being charged with, or criminal law in general. Well, in many states where there are budgetary problems, many people who are being accused of crimes are not being afforded their right to an adequate counsel because the state can't afford to fund the public defender system. And so what we've got are men and women who are sitting in jail literally for years, waiting for a trial, waiting for a hearing date, waiting for some type of justice. This is a clear violation of our substantive due process under law. And so it's really affecting poor people, states that are poorer than others, and it's an American issue. And so I got an opportunity to talk about that. When you're thinking about reasons to vote, when you're wondering why is my vote important, I would ask you to look at things just as very simple as people's Sixth Amendment. These are issues that are affecting all of us, all of our families, particularly people of color. And that should give you enough reason right there to go out and cast your vote for your city council or for your state senator, your state representative, all of those local races, because there are many of our constitutional rights that have to be protected even on a local level. Look, that's going to do it for my 5 things that you need to know. Take a look at our weekly update. We've got a lot of great columns and information in that as well. If you need us at the Urban League, we're only an email, a text, a tweet, a phone call away. Thanks for what you do in and for the movement. I'm Don Cravins. I'll see you soon.